play. Wonderful. All right. I think we have a tremendous group. Hi, Philip. Hi, Chris. Hi, Crimson. Susanna. Hi, Libby. Want a treat? Phyllis is there. Rebecca is coming from Houston, which is so cool. I think, is everybody else coming from Eugene? Most folks. You could be elsewhere in your mind, of course. Good. Hi, Janine. Welcome. Bruchim habaim, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So I will go ahead and share the screen and put up our blessing. And if you have a piece of paper that you're kind of keeping any notes on, invite you to pull that up if you'd like. And really to, as we begin with this blessing, to set an intention for yourself around really attunement and utilizing this as an opportunity for your own spiritual preparation for the holidays. And we'll do a bit of a recap for those of you who missed our first one, but really the overall intention is to reconnect with our bodies. And I know some of you are having some physical sensations, and just really to notice those, and to also begin to align those your physicality with your own spiritual preparation, and the opportunity to bring all of yourselves and all of yourself to what's coming just around the corner. So I'll pull up the blessing for study, and with that kavanah, we'll join together, and feel free to mute yourself or unmute yourself as we arrive and bless. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Good, and that word, many of you have learned with me before, but that word la'asok, it always sounds to me like to soak in the words of Torah. It's literally to be busy with. But I think tonight, especially as we think about attuning our sense of food and consumption, and we can think about soaking in what really nourishes us during tonight's session. So with that, I'll go ahead and just invite anyone to give us a kind of report from the field. The conversation last week was about sleeping, and the assignment that I gave you was to sleep well, to sleep deeply, and to practice perhaps saying the Shema, and particularly the idea of forgiveness, of release as you lay down. So I just wondered, and I sent a song, and wondered if anybody wanted to just reflect on how was this past week in terms of attending to your sleep. Anyone?
Well, one of your comments from last week, when you said, you repeated, and you've said it a number of times, that the oneness of all is God. And that's a beautiful way to understand it.
Thanks, John. Yeah, and we let's actually start there as we warm up to each other. I know some of you know each other, some of you don't. So let's start there. John, you're always such an awesome grounder and like anchor. So thank you for bringing us there. And that's where we're going to begin tonight. Oops, let me just scroll down. So you don't have to scroll your eyes yet. I'll just scroll with you. The oneness. Can you say it one more time, John? I'll quote you now.
Yes, you said a way to define God is the oneness of all. And you went on and said that the high holidays are endlessly about how we understand God and ourselves.
Beautiful. So where we're going to start, and where we began last week as well, is this this oneness that was just surfaced again, and it comes from a verse in the book of Deuteronomy that ends with the phrase "Ein od milvado." There is nothing owed other than you, except for you, would be the more direct translation, but there's nothing except for you. And that's really a lens that we're thinking about in terms of these four worlds, because while there might be 4 worlds or 8 worlds or 12 worlds, they all are encompassed within the one, and we are encompassed within the one, and that oneness is God, or however we understand it. I mean, God is really just a hyperlink for whatever image or language or lack thereof language that you sense in your being as why it is that we're here and what we're doing, and who we are and how we're alive. All those big questions go within this oneness. So I'll chant it a couple times, and everybody's welcome. This is really just a thread to thread us through these 4 weeks together. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado, Hashem hu Elohim. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado, Hashem hu Elohim. I invite you to join me. You're on mute. It doesn't matter what it sounds like, or you can make up your own words, or just la la la. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado, Hashem hu Elohim. One more. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado, Hashem hu Elohim. Beautiful. So we spoke last week about these 4 worlds, and as I shared, this course was really born out of the question of, how do I prepare? What do I need this year to, arrive at Yom Kippur, arrive at Rosh Hashanah, having kind of stretched my spiritual muscles so that I can get in the game. Because as we all know, without kind of the preparation, we can't show up, really. We can't elevate and be our most ready and prepared selves. So unlike most things in life, we actually know this is coming and we can prepare, which is kind of amazing. So this class was born of how am I going to get ready this year? And one of the incredible people that is in this Zoom circle tonight is part of that process, my dear friend and co-conspirator, Nanaya Strandberg, and we're going to hear some teaching from her later. But I really brought together people who helped me prepare and who I hope can help and support you all to prepare as well. So a tiny recap into this concept of the four worlds. I spoke last time a little bit more in depth about the evolution of Jewish mysticism, and we could have, you know, a multi-year, multi-life conversation about it. But where we landed was on one of the thinkers, Rabbi Isaac Luria, known as Ha'ari, the lion, and his language bringing together some earlier concepts of tzimtzum, of pulling back, of kind of withdrawing, of shvirah, of the breaking of the vessels, and tikkun, of the healing or the mending or the finding, the piecing back together of these shvirim. So does anybody just want to, from your own language, recap kind of in your memory, you know, what does this image mean for you as far as the myth of Luria, or how Luria kind of explained the creation of the world? Does anybody, and it could be super simple, you don't have to, you know, there's no test. They always say we all learn best from what we say. So I welcome anybody to give it a twirl.
I'll try. So the first creation was Hashem created the vessels and filled them with light, but it was too much for the vessels to hold, so that it broke and all these sparks of light are everywhere. And we are like the broken vessels trying to find the sparks to fix creation. That's kind of what Tikkun Olam is.
Amazing. No, that was gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely. And a piece that Noah, I think, lifted up really beautifully is that, you know, not only is the world kind of scattered around the world are these sparks of light from this, you know, metaphoric clay vessel that's shattered, but so too are we. I mean, you could almost imagine we are these vessels that attempt to hold the light, attempt to hold the dynamism in the world, and we get broken, we get frayed. And so perhaps the journey of Rosh Hashanah and the high holidays is also to bring us back together into oneness, into at one-ment, which is another way to say atonement. I'll just put that in here, at one. I think I spelled that right. I'm not a great speller. Maybe it has two T's, whatever. Yeah, so I think it does. Doesn't it have two T's? Yes. You're all saying
I teach
yes.
English. It's one T.
One T?
You did
Oh,
You got
right.
it right.
oh, thanks. Okay, it looked a little weird for a second. I got nervous. Okay, thank you. I love that you shared your credentials. That makes me even feel better. Super. So bringing ourselves back into wholeness. And we talked about this image. Emily, I've been thinking about you and your house building plans. Tonight, we are in the world of Yitzirah, of the emotional kind of laying out the actual plans of before we build the house. You have the dream of the house. You kind of go more in depth. You draw up the plans. Tonight we are drawing up the plans, and then the building of the project itself. So there are many ways to understand the four worlds. At kind of its sort of most broad strokes, I would say, you know, these are layers of the unfolding of how the world began. So in the way that there is the myth of the 7 days of creation. In some ways, the four worlds are also speaking to this desire to understand, how did it all come to be? What were the steps that it took for the world and ourselves to come to be? And we're looking also utilizing this chart. And for those of you who this is going too fast, you just, we covered this more in depth last week, and we're just kind of building on, but I'm just trying to bring everybody together. So forgive me if it seems too fast, everybody, or too slow. Just take what feels helpful for you. And we are in this column. We're in the second world, growth, creativity. It's all about water. It's spring, which doesn't quite align with our timing, but we can, all of these things, the rubrics, it's like a Rubik's Cube. We might not get all green on one side, but these are matrices through which we see the world. So what I wanted to think about tonight in terms of these four worlds and understanding, the pairing of mysticism with preparation for the high holidays is this question here. How do we contemplate creation and revelation on multiple levels, multiple layers? And how are we and our own development and evolution a part of that larger process? And this is a teaching that we learned last week that I wanted to bring back to our minds and share again here, by Neil, who spoke very powerfully about sleep in the book of Jonah last week. He reminded us that tshuva, which is the kind of elemental drive or call of this season of repentance or return, also has within it, at the end of the word tshuva, is a hey, and hey is one of the letters that repeats twice in God's name. So what he shared, and I found it really beautiful, is that tshuva is the return to the hey, return to God. So I'll just pause there for a moment, and I'm going to actually put these couple questions in the chat or phrases, and invite folks to kind of reflect on this. How are you thinking about your own unfolding at this season? Do you think of it even in that way, that in some way, if I had a whiteboard, I would say, here's the unfolding of the world or the universe, and here's the unfolding of ourselves. And during this season, it's like a Venn diagram. These two come together, and there's a reawakening around that we are part of the cosmos. I know this isn't a typical conversation that you have, but that's my lot in life. What do you all make of that? Do you think of yourselves as a world? Jewish tradition says that everyone is an olam katan, a tiny world.
I think we're all stardust.
Hmm.
So that's my take.
And the only challenge I would have, John, with that metaphor or question is really, is it stagnant? Because what's so profound about this season is that there is an unfolding. And Jewish tradition speaks of, revelation as being ongoing. Torah is still being revealed. The world's creation is not yet done. So the stardust is, gorgeous, but there's I don't know if it speaks to the process. Maybe it does in your mind. What are your thoughts or anyone's thoughts about?
If I
When
may.
think stardust, I think of a physical property. not, it's not a metaphor, it's an actual comparison to what we are in the cosmos.
Right.
So that's not, so we're just barely a speck. But,
Okay.
but
So
we're
it's
all
a,
part of it. It's all, every one of us and everything is all part of it. And that's
beautiful.
that's Hashem. So.
And Rebecca, you were gonna say?
I was going to say that I think what John is saying is true, but I think it goes in both directions. It's not just in the cosmos. I think it goes down to the smallest to infinite stuff that we haven't even seen yet. So from, I studied microbiology. You don't see what's going on in the smallest of bits, and we're just in that spectrum. But what you were saying about the unfolding, I think that's something we do every day. It's something I do every day when I say Modani in the morning. I start all over again, and I have another opportunity for discovery, pain, happiness. I have an opportunity again to do it again. I go to bed at night thinking, oh, I get to do it again tomorrow. And when I wake up, I do. And I think that, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, this time of year where we're engrossed in it, it's almost a celebration of what I've gotten to do every day. It's like a birthday. I can get to do it again. And it's an annual reminder of like the compass, like the center of it, where I have to keep coming back in order to unfold again. I liked your metaphor of unfolding, because when I unfold something, I can't see what's inside until it opens. And it's scary and challenging and adventurous and courage, and above all things, it requires faith to allow it to unfold, because you're going to see something you've never done before, you've never seen before.
I love
You
that.
just have to give it up because it's unfolding.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Rebecca, I'm so glad
Thank you. Thank
That's
you. I really appreciate
gorgeous.
the opportunity.
That's awesome. Awesome. So I want to take us, I know there would be lots more of sharing, but I want to give us kind of hone us in a little bit on the focal point for tonight, the unfolding for tonight, the dimension that we're going to explore, which is our eating, and the emotional connection, the emotional relationship to eating. And we're going to look at a few texts about eating. So is everybody ready to roll? I know some of you are off camera. If anybody wants to come back, you're most invited. I think it creates a powerful kind of synergy when we can see each other. But if you're off doing what you're doing, blessings. So here is a comment from the Iturei Torah, which is a commentary on the Torah. Philip, do you want to read this for us? Let me see if I can make it a bit bigger too.
Yes.
Sorry, I made it bigger and then disappeared. Here we go. Iturei Torah.
Iturei Torah. 7 gates, 7 windows to the soul, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and the mouth. And I actually made a comment in the chat last week about this, that to my surprise, it does not include the sense of touch.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about eating, this occurred to me as apparently one of the most sensitive, neurologically, one of the most sensitive sites in the whole human body is the mouth, which can distinguish a huge number of different types of textures, and something that I'd never appreciated until I read about it recently. In any case, so there you have 7 gates and my proposal for an 8th.
I love it. I love it. Go Philip. Always up for a new development. That's the ongoing revelation right there, right? Yeah, the skin is definitely a gate. So these and this beauty, there's a lot of beauty, and we could spend a bunch of time with just this text. This is one of the texts that becomes the source of why is there 7 branches in the menorah and the 7 days of creation, and this notion of seven gates is just gorgeous when you think about the idea of a gate, a sha'ar, an opening that opens both ways, just as Rebecca was sharing. This next text, and we're gonna cook a little bit through these next couple because I want to make sure we get them on the table, literally. Does somebody want to take on this next one?
I'll read it.
Great.
The We Are Connected one.
Yep, I think somebody spoke up. Who was that?
I said I'd read it, Rebecca.
Perfect. Great.
I've never read this before. A hymn to the universe as God's form. From the Holy One's form, Toar, the constellations are shimmering, and God's form projects the exalted ones. And her crown blazes with the mighty, and garments flows, and God's garment flows with the precious. And all the trees will rejoice in the word, and the plants will exult in God's rejoicing. And God's words shall drop as perfumes, flowing forth flames of fire, giving joy to those who search them, and quiet to those who fulfill them. Hayekalut Rabati.
Great. So this is a mystical text that just is so beautiful and speaks to the relationship between, you know, these plants where our food come from and God, and the kind of magical dance between the source of food and this imagery of shining and garments and sparkles and flames. And you know, if you just were to close your eyes and kind of see again this Garden of Eden, that's what we're speaking to tonight. Is a return to my teacher Rabbi Art Green would talk about a Garden of Eden consciousness. One of the elements that is repeated, really the entire book of Leviticus speaks to it and is centrally built around it, is this notion of korban, which is sacrifice. And often a korban is a food product. It's either a grain or an animal. There were fire offerings, there were wave offerings, there were, you know, grain offerings, but usually they were something to be consumed by the concept of God. They would have holy barbecues all the time to express devotion and a coming close. Literally, the word korban means to, it comes from the Hebrew root of likrov, to come close. So our relationship to food has this sacrificial nature to it, and it also has this almost like a rubber band, this intimate pull and push between our connection to God and the divine. So there's a fascinating democracy that's laid out in the very intricate schedule of sacrifices that are brought to the temple. And one unique leveling of the playing field is around, you know, how much money someone would have and therefore what sacrifice they would bring. So does someone want to read this? This is from the Babylonian Talmud, from Menachot, from the tractate on the offerings.
Is this the one on sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Great.
sacrifice korban, meaning coming close. When a person, nephesh, presents an offering of grain to the Lord, Leviticus 2:1, because of the heavy cost, the grain offering of a poor farmer is accepted by God as the veritable offering of his soul, is the equivalent of a meat sacrifice.
Great, thanks, John. So again, from the Babylonian Talmud, from the section on offerings. So what's fascinating here is, or to me at least, is this tracing between really the ancient cult of the Israelites, built around offering food and as a way to come close to God. Does that register for everybody? It's sort of, I think the equivalent would be, if you go to Trader Joe's and whatever you put in your cart would be, you would consider them, the items, as offerings, as ways of coming close. Any thoughts or comments on that? It's a very different way of thinking about food.
I was taught, and I was taught by a wise person that like I used to give away my leftovers to the homeless. So when I sacrifice food, I used to sacrifice the food I didn't need. If I see God in all the people on the street, if I see God in the homeless, if I see God in my neighbor, I don't have to give away what I don't need. When I give away the grain that I'm going to make my own bread with to feed my family, to feed myself, before I feed myself and my family, that's the sacrifice. So the sacrifice is not in giving away what I don't want. The sacrifice is not in giving away the leftovers. The sacrifice is giving away what I was going to use. When you said Trader Joe's, that's what made me think about it. Like when I go to Trader Joe's, or if I go to a grocery store to buy an extra one when I can barely afford to buy what I'm buying, and then give away the extra one plus one, that's the sacrifice.
Right.
To give away the one that I bought to sacrifice. When I read that, that's what I thought of. I thought of making a sacrifice is about giving away the grain that I would use to feed my family, believing that it'll be replaced. I won't starve. It's the faith that carries you through that sacrifice.
Powerful. Yeah, very powerful. Noah.
I was thinking from my more country person, that was really beautiful. I was thinking from my country person perspective that this would be affecting every day of the life of a country person, because you would be raising the animal and raising the grain, and all these things would be infused in your everyday, because it wouldn't be something you would just be gathering for the sacrifice. It would be everything you did in your everyday life was because you needed to have these things for Hashem in the end, good enough for Hashem. And so it would change your way of doing everything about how you were living.
Yeah, I love that, Noah. Yeah, and really thinking about the process, the kind of life cycle of growing and harvesting, and in today's world, driving the truck, or the Amazon person, or the mail carrier, or the person today. I was thinking about, who is that person that puts on the stickers on my zucchinis? Like that is like, that's a job. That's a really that's a dedicated focus. I mean, it seemed like a meditative process to me. I like went into this whole, who is this person that put on the sticker? And also the relational piece. Rebecca mentioned, the giving to someone that we don't know, and Noah just mentioned the relationship to God. And I would sort of, again, if I had a whiteboard, I would kind of put, there's this idea in Jewish tradition of ben Adam lechavaro, of a relationship between a person and another human being, and ben Adam la'atzmo, a person and themselves, and then ben Adam la'aretz, between a person and the earth, and between a person and God. I mean, there are these axes of relationship, and they all come back to this notion of korban, of coming close. And if you take kind of one word tonight, I would take korban. I would take coming close as something to explore in our relationship with food and relationship with life. I once saw this guy at a gas station. I like went in to pay or something, and I looked at his arm. He was in the line in front of me, and he had Hebrew tattooed on his arm. And I looked closer, and it said korban. And I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and I said, "That's an amazing." I definitely did not say anything about being a rabbi, but I said, "What an amazing tattoo! What does it say?" I love to pretend I don't know a darn thing. And he said, "I don't know. I just thought it was so cool." And I have never forgotten that, because of so many layers to it. One, the Jews, one of the ways that we were thought of in the Holocaust was as korbanot, as offerings. But more importantly, to reclaim that word as what it means to come close, what it means to be in sacred relationship with ourselves, with each other. So that stands out to me as something that I think about whenever I teach about korban or think about it. The last piece that I want to bring to us before we have the zchut, the privilege to hear from Ninaya tonight, is the kind of the bridge, I hope, from this conversation to what she's about to share. This is from, again, the Babylonian Talmud on Chagiga, in the section about the Chagim, about the holidays. Does somebody want to read this for us?
I'll read it.
Oh, Janine, I was hoping you would. That's so exciting. Great.
Without a temple, our table becomes our altar, healing, reparations. Shulchan b'makom mizbeach. Thus, Rabbis Yohanan and Reish Lakish in 3rd century Palestine conceived it to be a locus for reconciliation. In the days of the temple, the altar served to atone for us. Now it is our table that atones for us.
Great. And the Hebrew here, just to presence, the Hebrew is Mizbeach mechaper al Adam, that the altar would atone, like kapara, or Yom Kippur is right here in this word, al Adam, for a person, achshav, but now shulchano, our table, shel Adam mekaper alav. Now it is our own table that is our altar that atones for us. And then Janine, if you'd read the Rashi on that.
Rashi, in his comment on the resursion, suggests that the atonement is effected by inviting guests to our table. That is, in repairing our relations with people outside the family.
Great, thank you. So this is really the next layer of all of this. Of not only does our food have the opportunity to bring us close, but it can also literally atone, heal on our behalf, and bring wholeness for our relationships with others. So on that note, really just very thrilled to share tonight's teaching with dear friend Ninaya to teach.
Let's see there. Am I mute or unmute?
You're perfect.
Yay. Hello, everybody. Greetings from very hot Santa Barbara. I'm not used to it here. I'm so excited to be here together. And I have a really special, sweet connection with Rabbi Allison. I think we met and fell in love on Rosh Hashanah. here in Santa Barbara when I was pregnant with my first boy, it's almost 15 years ago now. And it's a very special time for me. I'm originally born and raised in Sweden. And I converted right before my firstborn. And it was a special time for me to be there at this Rosh Hashanah and meet Rabbi Allison. So we do connect in the high holiday spirit, and we love eating together. And so I'm thrilled that she called to include me in this. I have a special connection with food. My mother was a chef, or she's still a chef. She's an incredible chef, but that was her job. And I see now she was very demanding as a mother, but I am so glad that she was that demanding. I learned a lot from her in the kitchen. And it was really a spiritual practice I see now. I feel when I'm in the kitchen and I make food, and I love making all kinds of food, I feel the most at peace. And I really feel the presence of God as I'm adoring and cleaning these vegetables, even if it's a busy time. I really enjoy it. And I also work as a holistic health practitioner. And I have a special connection with water, healing with water. And I feel that water and earth, our food, is such the medicine for keeping us healthy and well and happy and connected. And so I really enjoyed hearing about these teachings. And for me, the cycle of life is that beautiful communion from our gift of life through our breath. And so we breathe in oxygen that we get from the plants. So it's this beautiful relationship. And then we breathe out carbon dioxide. That's the perfect food for the plants. So we live this beautiful God-given relationship as natural human spiritual beings. And I love that connection and celebration of oneness that is in our food, and remembering nature, and remember to come back to eating seasonal foods. I think also the high holidays is so beautiful with all the harvest food that's available. And again, when I lead events with clients, I specialize in cleansing, using water and food as medicine. And so, and fall, particularly at this season around the high holidays, it's governed with the lungs and the large intestine. And so this keeps us healthy and strong. And there's so much food available to take us into winter and into a whole new cycle that will come from, essentially, I feel a cycle of life goes into death in winter and we get born again. And so for Rosh Hashanah, for me, it's a new cycle of life, and that starts, and we celebrate, and to then go in and clear our body temple and prepare to go into a fast simply by tuning into the seasonal foods is what I remind people of. Let's see, what can I say?
Just to just to share everybody that I put in the chat a handout from Ninaya. It's a PDF. So you all have the handout available. And if you want, Ninaya, I can also screen share that if that would be helpful.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that about food. I have issues like so many others, but mine's with food sometimes. I really appreciate the recipes that you shared. They're beautiful. And I can't wait till this weekend to start practicing so that I can get it just right.
Yes.
The relationship between, like, you know, when you were speaking about abundance and the harvest and the fast, isn't it amazing that we're being asked to fast during a time of such abundance, during a time of the harvest, when our tables are full? We're asked to just hold up just a minute, just
To pause.
pause. No, you don't have to leap in like that head first. You know, a moment of reflection and resistance and self-control and sacrifice. It's beautiful. It's what you made me think of. There's a question where you see
Yeah.
that relationship between the fast and the abundance.
Yes, absolutely. I think because it's such a festive and abundant holiday, to really take a moment and pause and connect in with that abundance, that natural abundance, and preparing the house and going to the market and get all this colorful food and dressing up our house and really making it that traditional food that's particular for this holiday in anticipation for that abundance. And as we eat for Rosh Hashanah, the sweetness, we're creating that and we're blessing the food, and in our coming together, we give a nice jolt to the system of that abundance. And then we get to pause again. And I think the best way to prepare for Yom Kippur and for that fast is to simplify the food and to stay on course with the seasonal foods and to eat really what's in what serves the body in this natural foods, and get away from processed foods and get away from eating much at the restaurants, and really making an effort to keep it as natural as possible for the body itself to get filled up with good fibers and feel balanced, so that we can then slow it down again and take a moment to clear house and count our blessings in that way.
Thank you, Ninaya.
Yes. Another thing
I
wanted to
will.
say-
Thank
yes,
you.
yes. Another thing I wanted to say also, you know, in preparation for a fast is to slow it down. Is, you know, I know a lot of people, they eat a lot before, and then it gets a little difficult to stay awake. And so sometimes it's better to slow it down and chew more. It's this concept of drinking our food and chewing our liquids to really make the most of it and realize that already we have what we need inside, and to slow it down and to go gradually into a fast and feel it deeply.
I love that idea of, you know, that slowing it down, so to be aware that we have what we need inside. That's I hadn't thought of fasting in that way, but that's so beautiful.
It really becomes, you know, as to prepare for a fast, I think it's important to, first of all, stop the stressors, the obvious stressors, a lot of just upsetting ways and surroundings, and just become aware of creating more peaceful environment and setting intention for sacred time, and really blessing our food and taking it in through all the senses and filling up through all the senses. and then gradually eating less and breathing deeper, and yeah, making
May
it last.
May I ask another question? And Rabbi, you may be able to help us with this. Is we have special accommodations that we make for people who don't have it within them. You know, I mean, we're so blessed that we can fast all day and still be okay. We have people here, even in our group here, who might not be able to do that. They don't have it within them to be without food for 25 hours, 26 hours.
True.
And so, how do we address that? How do we encourage them to not abuse their bodies and to listen to what your body needs? And the goal of the fast is not the 26 hours, right? I don't know. Not everybody can do it, and we are blessed that we can.
Right, exactly. And so, but what we all can do is have the awareness to bless it and to do the best we can, and to reach for a good quality food if that's available for us, food that's highly charged, or have a little bit and still have the intention to make that go a long way, and just do what's necessary. And I think the most important thing is the intention and the blessing of it.
Definitely. Yeah, and remember all of these abstentions in Jewish tradition, whether it's not wearing leather shoes or not anointing ourselves or not eating on Yom Kippur, that is to kind of unbusy ourselves, just as Nanaya was talking about, to really simplify and like remove the distractions.
Exactly.
So that could be really reframed for all of us, depending on, you know, our desires and bodies. And
It could be something as simple as a broth, maybe for the day, just a broth, but a broth has a lot. It could be a potassium broth, something that's very nourishing and grounding still, to be able, would still be a stretch to be on a liquid diet, but something that still has some grounds for those in need, and still have that awareness not to be in that normal stuffing.
And maybe when we come out of the fast, we could not go back to where we were. And stay with that idea of like minimal dosing with food, like maximizing what we eat so that it's what we need instead of
Yeah, I think,
despite the abundance.
yes, a good measure is always, even when you go out and shop, or if you're somewhere, like, will this serve me? Will this serve my health? Will this serve my well-being? Is this kind? Just eating with loving awareness. If we can hold that with us, that concept from moment to moment in each meal that we do, or have an awareness that, oh, maybe this ice cream is not
Hi.
really what I need,
Right.
but you just to honor that, but I love it and it tastes great, so I'm going to bless it and I'm going to have it in some kind of moderation. And then I have to take responsibility that now might create some mucus in my system, and so then tomorrow or later I will have some tea to help it, to just be mindful of the choices that we take. And so I think when we have that intention around food, even food that is not necessarily the greatest for us, still has an energy of upliftment from that awareness and blessing.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to, as you can all probably get a sense, Ninaya not only teaches this, but really lives it in such a profound way. And knowing her all of these years, I'm still, I pick up such gems, and I have so far to go, but her light and her living this is such a blessing to my life. So I hope that we can all kind of take some of these jewels and lift them up and put them into practice. Something that Ninaya said that I want to put in the chat here is the idea of blessing our food, which is I love the way you said it, of, even blessing the ice cream as a way of aligning ourselves with our choices and taking responsibility for our choices. And what you'll see in one of the links is this card that I really recommend, if you can, to print out. You can put it in your wallet, or just take a picture of it, I guess. You don't even have to print it anymore, but these are the blessings related to food. And this is kind of what one of the offerings that I would give you for this week is to practice just blessing your food. And you don't have to use the Hebrew words. It could be your own words. It could just be, blowing a kiss at whatever you're eating, or just taking a moment of pause and reflection. But blessing our food is really one of the ways that we get to that altar space of seeing our tables as an altar. So that was one offering that I wanted to give you, is to bless your food. Ninaya created a gorgeous handout. I hope I'm going to put it again in the chat. Ninaya, do you want to speak for a moment about the recipe?
Yeah, I had fun just putting some things together and just reminding us about this wonderful seasonal foods that we can find everywhere now. It's so colorful. I love fall foods. And one of my favorite dishes, and I always get lots of compliments for my persimmon compote swirl that I bring to the high holiday parties that I have been throughout the years. And what's great with it, it's just so sweet and so refreshing, and you can just enjoy persimmon. I personally like persimmon just simple like that. But the recipe calls for mixing two kinds, the soft kind that you have to wait until it's very kind of pungent and ripe. And you make a custard sauce, and then I chop in some of the harder, more apple-like persimmon in there. And I put that in a big bowl, and then I serve it in champagne glasses. And I swirl that with a cashew whip. So instead of having dairy, which gets to, keeping the meals kosher, it's just perfect to get that sense of whipped cream into it, using a cashew fluff that you swirl. I do a little bit of the persimmon and a little bit of the cashew whip, and then the persimmon, and I put some pomegranates on top. And it's such a beautiful dessert to serve, where you can have a big bowl and people can do it by themselves. And it is so delicious and fun to remind people of persimmon and just this fresh fruit that's so gorgeous in color and so explosive in flavors, to eat it so naturally instead of baking it and what it's normally served as. So I'd love to bring that, and I hope you give it a try, and welcome to contact me if you need any help in the kitchen. But it's very easy to do, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Thank you, Ninaya, so much for all of your gifts and your blessings and teachings. So beautiful. This brings us to the conclusion for tonight, and invite folks to, take these last 2 weeks of teachings. Now we're at sleeping, so I hope you sleep well. And tonight, I hope you eat well, or tomorrow, I guess. And then we'll return together next week to contemplate silence, which is another inlet into how it is that we can prepare our hearts and our minds and our bodies for that oneness. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you again next week. We are recording. There'll be a playlist sent out at the end of the series. So blessings.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you again to Ninaya.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you both.
So much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
So
it.
glad you were here.
Hope to see you again. Thanks.
You.